Thank you for taking time out to chat.
Of
Um,
course, I was excited to see your name. It was
yes,
my celluloid screams seatmate.
I was going to say, yeah, the last time that we saw each other was, at Celluloid Screams. I think that was towards the end of the film festival tour. I know that you had at least one more stop. What
Hmm.
was that experience like? Because I guess after like 2 years of being locked down, you suddenly then, went on a world tour with this film.
It was incredible. I was very grateful. We didn't take that for granted because when it started, like I had friends in 2020 who had films, that were about to premiere at South by Southwest or whatever, and ended up going home. So we didn't know whether we would actually get this sort of experience of being in person and getting to share it. So that it worked out that way was terrific. And part of the reason we did it was because we felt like globally, like outside of just the US, people would tap into this feeling, in the same way, since we had this shared experience. And I think that felt true everywhere I went. It's sort of, you could feel people connecting to it and leaning in, which was awesome.
And this isn't the first one of your films that's been on the festival circuit. What do you think it is about taking a film on, through those festivals that helps you as an indie filmmaker?
Well, you get to engage with the community, and there is no better community in film, I'm convinced, than the horror community. I mean, it's part of why you're able to even survive barely as someone like me making movies, on this budget and getting to make the next one. If the community wasn't lifting me up, and I didn't feel that positive charge, there's no way I would still be doing it. So to actually be in person, meeting those people, engaging with those people, congregating with those people, and sharing everyone else's movies as well as this one, I feel like it only amplifies that effect. So I become really grateful, as much as I'm like an introvert normally, and I always brace myself for the experience of it. Once I'm out in it, it's wonderful.
So you say introvert, but we can't keep you off the karaoke.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. Well, it took a little social lubricant, let's say.
Fair
Just a
enough.
little.
And there's been quite a few films made, during the pandemic, but I think a lot of films shy away from even mentioning the, COVID or any sort of pandemic things. That it's very much look the other way. Why was it important to you that you didn't ignore that and that it was present in some way?
Well, I guess because it felt, because of that shared well, I guess, of dread that everyone has. I feel like you're always taking this leap of faith that your story is going to connect and resonate with audiences. And this was a chance to resonate with something that everyone understood, that didn't have, some regional boundaries to it. And I think with things like this, there's I don't know, there's a temptation to put it away too fast, I think, without looking at it. That we're all, I know I'm in that boat. Um, and horror is a nice way, I think, to look at it if you're going to. I think horror gives you a nice lens and just a little bit of a safety net between, to to mask the truth in, basically. So we were scared of the decision to do it, for sure. But I also figured I'd learned enough about the horror community that if we did it with the right amount of grace, hopefully a touch of insight and a touch of catharsis for people, that we could become the exception, or that COVID movie, like the one that people say, this one you should see. This one, hopefully isn't exploiting it, because for me, it was very inspired how it came out. It wasn't like, how do I take advantage of the situation? It was like, how do I process these feelings that I know I'm not the only one having.
Yeah, and there's this great scene quite early on in the film where your two female characters they meet up and they hug, and it's the first time that the two women have seen each other in a long time, but it's also the first time that they've really seen anybody outside of their household, and they share this hug. And I think in any audience that I've seen the film in, you feel the impact of that as everybody remembers the first time that they, touched somebody outside of their household again. But I think what makes the scene even more intense is that you can literally hear the characters' hearts beating. I think I'm right in saying that was almost like a happy accident.
That's exactly right. That's just very simply their laugh mics pressing against each other in that moment. And they were very connected to that moment. It's not something we did 9 times. It was something, we maybe did a couple times, and they were really we were all I think moved in the room at that moment. And so when we got to the sound design and we heard the mics pressed together, we were like, well, that doesn't really make sense, but I cannot remove it. There's some intuitive connection that we get, and every time I'm still affected by that scene because I know how sincerely they were feeling it. So it's been really cool to feel audiences connect with that.
Yeah. And like I say, I know a lot of the festival genre audiences, they're quite hardened people, and yet this film has wrecked audience after audience. What sort of fear do you think that you managed to tap into with this film? Because I've seen hardened horror fans like crumble when faced with this film.
um I mean, I guess it's all of that feeling that we're trying to put away too fast. I think we're all guilty of that. In fact, I think that's just the mode of survival right now. So something that brings it back, um and again, hopefully doesn't feel exploitative. Hopefully those feelings are being generated or regenerated, um with sincerity in an earned way. And people are feeling that. People are wherever little compartment they put it in to be safe and to not be released, it's sneaking out of that compartment during that movie. And you can feel the audience is taking the weight of the movie. And I have to remind myself that that's what's happening to people, because when you see it 1,000 times, you start to think of it technically, like, is the roller coaster working? But the beauty of it is when the story just does its work, and your initial conceit for wanting to do it and how it might connect with people does its work. So yeah, I'm just, I'm grateful for it, and I hope they're the good tears when I do see them in the audience afterwards.
You also play around with dreamscapes a lot. There's a lot of almost inception levels, what bits are awake and what bits are dreaming. How much fun did you kind of have, I guess, not only when filming, but then in the edit process when you're knowing like when to like lift that veil and when to put it back down again?
It is fun because you're sort of playing the off rhythm to the rhythms we know, that there is a Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, that there's a set of expectations for like what's in the toolbox, whether it be the dream within a dream within a dream, or all so trying to like utilize those things but pull them out in different orders and different times than we might expect, the timing of things being a little different. And our goal was to have a really human set of our human anchor to the thing. So as tempting as it might be when we go into a nightmare to kind of change the design or to do something sneaky as filmmakers, we tried to draw a hard line that if our protagonist doesn't know we're dreaming, we should have no way to know we're dreaming. So part of that fun is having confidence in that not knowing, and actually not changing your shot design because you're in a dream, not changing anything. Because if we're just hardwired to that experience of Monique in this case, it becomes, that long game starts to pay off. So in terms of dreamy movies, it was Jacob's Ladder that we were looking at, more than like a Nightmare on Elm Street, but you're standing on the shoulders of all these giants to do it in the first place. And it is fun.
And you're one of the there's a few of you now, the indie filmmakers who take a lot of control of a lot of ownership over their project. So in addition to writing and directing this, you also edited and then composed the music. What advantages do you think that this gives you?
There's an advantage of flow, like in a really technical way, especially in post. Editing and composing at the same time lets me just kind of flow between the edit and the piano and back and forth. And when I need to build something, I can go build it in the moment and put it right in, and I don't have to wait for someone else. But mostly it's also super dangerous. Like I go into that every time and I'm like, I could so quickly have my head up my ass doing all of these things. So I think the only way it works is if you stay super humble and you really trust the people around you and beside you. My producing partners, Richard King and Clark Freeman, and whether it be Ludo or Shiyu or my DP and my production designer or any of my keys, I let them know right at the front, like, police me, look, like, watch for me getting tunnel vision, and keep pulling me out with your fresh eyes, otherwise I'll lose mine. So there are advantages and there are disadvantages, and I'm not like this scarf wearing auteur who's like demanding to take all these jobs on. In fact, I'm really excited to work with other composers as I hopefully grow, especially. But and I'm probably not one to fight for like final cut, but I do want like the first cut. I like to just show people, hey, this is what I intended. And then if it's not working for, like, I'm not making them for me. So if it's not working, I'm first in line to fire myself.
And one question that I have that is slightly spoilery, so I guess if anybody's looking at this that hasn't seen the film yet, just maybe pause this and come back. When we first meet the demonologist, played by your lovely wife, she has some kids who your own kids who are doing what kids do in the Zoom era. They rock up and ruin it in a way. And this creature that Monique is battling against thrives on being known, and then obviously it eradicates people from everyone else's memory. There's another call later on with the demonologist, and there's no kids. Like, should we be reading anything into that, or are they finally behaving?
That was never in my head. It was pointed out to me probably before we shot in the draft stage, and I was like, do I address this? Do I push harder on that? I'm interested in that, but I'm going to leave it veiled. Since they're my kids, I never gravitated towards they're gone. But I actually think that's interesting. I leaned forward when someone mentioned that to me. So yeah, maybe the kids are she's certainly in danger. She remains in danger. And I'm going to hope in my own head that the kids have not been reduced to relics. They're still running around there. That was just a touch of optimism.
And obviously, for people that didn't catch the film on the festival circuit, why should they take a chance on this film? What are they going to get when they sit down with this film?
I think they're going to get everything they want from a horror movie. That's my hope, is that it's a horror movie first, and the experience, whatever we all had different experiences of the pandemic, and I get when people hear that there's a movie about it, there's they're rightfully suspect, but I would say that everyone on this team was really careful, and I think it's borne out in what we've seen in the experiences of people watching it, that we are story first, trying to deliver the goods as horror fans ourselves. And I think whatever your experience was, it's going to have a chance to sort of run through the processor again, or maybe for the first time in a kind of healthy way. And that it won't get in the way of your horror experience, but it could be a valuable thing that you didn't know, would be healthy for you. Or maybe you'll just go in the roller coaster part, and that'll be fun too. But either way, it's I believe it's built to satisfy. So I hope people seek it out.
And for fans of your work, I know that you've always got a few ideas percolating. Have you got an idea that's sort of the front runner for what you're going to do next yet?
Yes. There's a movie I have in like sort of early development. It's like a cosmic horror thing. I won't say too much about it because I'm very jaded, and I will believe that I will jinx myself. But I've been writing a lot. I'm always that part of it. I feel like the writing keeps me sane. So I'm always interested in what I'm working on next. And I'm trying to visit like all the subgenres. I feel like I've got my little take in every corner. Like I've got a slasher that I'm interested in doing. I've got like sort of more of a comic horror thing. So yeah, this movie it's provided a lot of new inroads, and I've met a lot of new people that I'm really excited to collaborate with. And this was meant to be a sort of bridge builder, because I can't survive much longer without growing a little bit more into the space. So signs are good. that will happen. We'll see. Cross my fingers.
Well, I wish you the best of luck with the release of this one in the UK and with your future endeavors.
Thank you. I appreciate the support.